So following on from the video I did about the creative whack pack, by the way, I'm not being sponsored by these people. I just love sharing good things at the end of the day, and if it helps people, then I like it. So I thought I would do an example of how to use these cards. I've picked out 4 fairly, random, from one from each deck, one from each suit rather. So we're going to start off with the explorer, then the artist, then the judge, and then the warrior. And then I thought that I would sort of think about. So let's just say you are going to start a project. We'll keep it fairly generic, but let's say we are starting, we're thinking about starting a new project, and it's a business idea maybe. And we're thinking, this is a really good idea. Da 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 da. So where do these cards come in? Okay, so starting with the explorer. Okay, so while we're thinking about our project, what else could we explore? Okay, what else could we think about? Have we thought about everything to do with this particular project? So this particular card, which just picked up as random, the title of it says "Look Somewhere Else." Okay. Well, it is a picture of what looks like an explorer type person on there with a pair of binoculars, and it says, "Finding new ideas is like prospecting for gold. If you look in the same old places, you'll find tapped out veins." Interesting. "But if you venture off the beaten path, you'll improve your chances of discovering new idea loads. Remember, you can't see the good ideas behind you by looking twice as hard at what's in front of you." And then the question is, where else can you look for ideas? So that could be quite interesting. So thinking about our project, we could think, okay, have I really explored all the avenues here? Have I really explored all the ideas? Have I really explored all the opportunities that could be available? So you could maybe look in a different place for extra ideas about something. It could be that you look in somewhere completely different. It may or may not give you some more ideas. It may or may not benefit your particular project or whatever it is that you have going on for you. But at least you've explored what the ideas are. And sometimes, this is where I like these cards, because if you think about your project in a slightly different way, you can find other opportunities. You can find that other, that other line of gold, as it were. And it does actually work, because I have actually done this myself. While you think that your project is complete and that you've got the foundations for it and everything, you then just question, have you really explored everything that you could possibly explore about your project and its ideas and about where it's going to go? And what if you just went off the beaten path? You've set this path for yourself, and that's where your project is going. But what if you just went down a different path? Even if you just took a detour around a different way, what other opportunities could be down there? And these cards very often will only work if you're willing to make that change, if you're willing to open up the opportunities that come your way. So quite interesting while we're thinking about our project. So the next one is the artist, and the artist will prompt us to think about things in a slightly different way. Okay, so this particular card picked up is called Reverse. So we've got a chap that seems to be upside down, and it looks like he's been hit with a light bulb. Okay, so reversing how you look at a situation can open up new possibilities and dislodge assumptions. Quite key. Example: when everyone else is gazing at a glorious sunset, why not turn around to see the blues and violets behind you? What do you notice when you look at a coffee cup? Its design or colour? reverse your focus and look at the space inside. That's what gives its functional value. Example, spend a minute describing a current problem. If you're a male, describe it from the female viewpoint. If you're a female, do the reverse. Interesting. So looking at something in a completely different way, turning it completely around. And the question is, how can you reverse the way you look at your idea? You know, the artist. The artist is pushing the boundaries of what we think is normal, or what we think should be acceptable, or what we think something should be like. And so the artist will ask you to, in this particular case, reverse, turn it upside down, look behind it. You know, is it really, really what you want? Is it going to benefit the people that you think it's going to benefit? Is it going to benefit you in the way that you think it's going to benefit you? So it kind of really challenges your brain to think in a completely different way to what you think you need to think, if you know what I mean. So in this particular instance, the reverse of something. Turn it upside down, turn it back to front, turn it inside out. You know, is there another opportunity to be had by doing it that way? So again, quite apt. So the next one is the judge suite. So thinking about our project again, how will the judge, how thinking like a judge make it different? You know, so again, these cards can prompt you, and the one that I picked out on here is got a cow on there, and it says slay a sacred cow. Okay, so it says, there is a saying that Frederick the Great lost the Battle of Jena, meaning that for 20 years after his death, the army perpetuated his successful organization instead of adapting to meet the changes in the art of war. Many rules outlive the purpose for which they were intended. What rule, policy, or way of thinking has been successful for you in the past, but may be limiting you now? Quite apt again. So the question is, what can you eliminate? And obviously, what sacred cow can you slay? So thinking about our project again, you know, sometimes we make decisions based on past history, past successes, maybe past failures. Oh, we're not going to do it this way because, you know, that was a failure in the past. Well, when we're going to implement the project in this particular way, or we're going to do something in a certain way because that's the way it's been done before and it's always been successful. And this is basically saying, is that really right? Be judgmental about what you think you need to do in order to make your project successful. Again, these things are sort of getting you to think slightly differently about what we take for granted sometimes, or things that we've put into place that may not be serving us so well now. You know, it could be that it worked 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Society has changed, our values have changed, your finances have changed, the way we do things has changed, technology has changed. And so something that may have worked 10, 15, 20 years ago is not going to be quite as applicable now. Or it could be limiting your ability to do whatever it is you're trying to do now. So again, be judgmental, you know, be that judge about, sometimes we have to make a sacrifice in order to move on. In order to make things to work, we have to think about them differently. We have to change the way we think, change the way we operate. And so, you know, the saying slay a sacred cow comes in because it's time to actually give those things the heave-ho and move on to a new way of thinking. That certainly happened for myself in one of my businesses, and you know, flexibility is key. Things change all the time. The way people operate, the way people do things changes. And so the last thing is the warrior. This is the action card. This is the card that gets you motivated, gets you moving, and gets that project that you're thinking about off the ground, you know, and get it moving. It's not just a stagnant idea that happens to just sit there and lie about. And so this one, it's a group of people holding something up. I don't really know what that is, but anyway, the title of this one is Do the Unexpected. Interesting. So this one is about in 1334, and I can't pronounce the name, Hochostowitz Castle was besieged by the Duchess of Tyrol. As time wore on, the defenders became desperate. Their last food was an ox. The Duchess's situations also were severe. Her troops had become unruly, and she had urgent matters elsewhere. Then the castle's commander had an idea that must have seemed utter folly to his men. He had the last ox thrown over the wall in front of the enemy. The Duchess interpreted this scornful message to mean that the defenders had so much food they could waste it. At this, the discouraged Duchess quit her siege. Because the commander did the opposite of what the Duchess expected, he made her believe that her siege wasn't working. So the question for this one is, what surprising tactic can you use to reach your objective? Again, you know, thinking about things in a completely different way. This is one of the reasons why I love these cards, because while you're thinking about your project, you know, at this particular, with this sort of insight here, do the unexpected. And you just begin to think, and whatever that might mean for you, you could just think, well, you know, well, I was going to go down this particular route, or we were going to use this particular plan. But based maybe on the other previous cards, you could go off the beaten path and take a different route to see where that goes. So you do something completely unexpected. Maybe the people around you think you're crazy for doing something, but it could take you down a route that you hadn't even thought of. And so, you know, doing the unexpected can sometimes again shift things and make things move. Turn your perspective around, help others to change their perspective about you, because they may see you as potentially somebody who's just quite stagnant, who likes to do the same thing over and over and over again. And if your project, you know, to get it exciting, to get it moving, do something completely unexpected, will people sort of sit up and start looking and thinking, wow, what on earth is going on there? And I'm sure we can all think of things where the you know, people, like for instance, I don't know why I've just thought of this, but you know, an actor. You grow up thinking that an actor is, he's amazing actor, or an actress. You know, you see them in all sorts of exciting films, and you follow them throughout their career, and as you get older, they become part of your life, as it were, and you expect them to do things, and you're expecting this same kind of pattern. And then all of a sudden, you find out they've done something completely different, like become a painter or a sculptor or something, and they've completely disregarded everything to do with this career that you've grown up to realise, and you realise then that they've actually done something completely different. And this happens quite a lot in people's lives, you know. So, you know, sometimes they get you to think. They are actually really quite useful in getting you to think differently about where your project or where your life is going, or whatever it is that you want to do, you know, with your life. They can actually help shift things in a very different way, sometimes in an unexpected way. And so, but that could be what is actually required in order to get things to moving and to get things going in a way that you want. So anyway, I thought that would be quite useful to go through and give an example of a project maybe that you're thinking about, and using these cards to get things moving, to look at things in a slightly different way, be judgmental about what it is you're doing, so that you can get a different, get a different viewpoint, rather than just relying on other people's viewpoints all the time, because you're taking on board their map of the world, and not, if it's your project, you want your map of the world altered or changed, or the perception changed, not someone else's, because they're working in their map of the world, if that makes sense. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you again soon in another video.